everybody to our next Q&A session with Dr. Françoise Wilhelmi de Toledo. Hello again, Françoise, and thank you once again for taking the time.
Hello, Lisa. Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be with you.
We are talking about the metabolism today and also about different types of fasting. And the first question is, does your metabolism slow down during fasting? And does the body get into kind of a starvation mode?
Well, I will answer with my opinion, my personal opinion, based on a lot of scientific data, but this is my synthesis. In humans, especially humans of today, we fast with exercise. Some people do intermittent fasting and they do still more exercise, or they go on with their everyday life. When you do the fasting, like in the Boehringer Wilhelmi clinics, we do long-term fasting. It's 5 days, 10 days, 15, 20 days, always followed by a period of food reintroduction slowly. And these are packages, and we have a whole staff to take care of the people. When you do long-term fasting, then you have the metabolic switch going. I would never say the starvation mode, because starvation is a late stadium when the normal energy reserves, which are fat, proteins, at least recyclable proteins, and a little bit of sugar, are exhausted. And this comes in humans with normal weight mostly after 30, 40 days, not before. So starvation mode is just the wrong thing. Starvation leads to death. Fasting is a fantastic way to regenerate life and body cells. So you come into the fasting mode. And of course, this fasting mode doesn't include the big costs of digestion. It's about 20% of energy utilization in the normal life that you utilize only for digestion. The whole processes of the digestion, liters of secretions, this incredible muscular activity of your digestive tract, all that is just set to rest. So of course, your metabolism during fasting is a bit less energetic. You consume less calories. What you can compensate wonderfully by physical exercise. So, you can even go to more energy expenditure during the fasting, not as your metabolic expenditure for the maintenance of life, because this is reduced, but you can compensate through doing walks every day, climbing the stairs, and having a very active life if you can. So yes, we go into a mode of energy sparing, calorie sparing, and this is due of the fact that you're not digesting, but still you have a lot of energy consumed during the fasting, especially for all the processes of cleaning, the autophagy, the apoptosis, all the mechanisms that are going to eliminate, first self-digest and then eliminate all damage and old structures. But when you go back to food, this relative deficit is going to be compensated, because the digestive processes are going to come again in activity. So when the people say, oh, if you regain the weight, it's because you are still in a starvation mode. For me, this is not exact. This is not true. This is just a sort of extrapolation, which is not what we observe. And in our clinic, we have also many people returning. They have a psychohygiene, they do a fasting, long-term fasting, 10 days, 15 days, every year. And when we ask them, what was the weight? Did you regain weight? And they say, many months I could maintain my weight. And sometimes maybe I just go back to too much eating, to less exercise, and then I put on weight again. So, in my opinion, the uh, tendency of some people to regain the weight after a fast comes from the fact that it's behavioral. They go back to their old habits. But it's not, we very seldom see people who put on the weight again in the next 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So, this mode, I would forget about this word starvation, starvation mode, but use the fasting mode, and it has its own rules, and it has this very special self fast food system. I mean, fast food in a humoristic way. It's because the fat is your food during the fasting, and it's mobilized very quickly. So you don't have to digest it, to process it, to sort, to, but it's there. And so of course you spend less energy. But when you eat back, you go back to your mode of before.
Mhm. I mean, this clinic was founded in 1953 by Dr. Otto Buchinger, and to my knowledge, we guided 250,000 people successfully during their fasts. And from observations, correct me if I remember this wrong, we know that one third after their stay here, they continue on a healthy lifestyle and continue losing weight. One third is kind of stable, and one third is once they are going back to their eating habits of before their stay and their lifestyle habits, like not exercising, not working out, not doing any sports, they are regaining slowly weight. Is that correct? Do I
Yeah, this is a publication we did on the follow up, and we followed over 10 years. It's people who have fasted 10 times in a relatively short period of time of 10 years to 15 years. And this is exactly what you say. We noticed that the people, one third stayed at a lower weight, one third could maintain the weight over 10 years, which is already an excellent result, because most of the people, they put on weight during their whole life. And then the ones who went back to their habit, of course, regained everything.
I find that extremely interesting, and maybe that is also kind of proof for those who are afraid of this starvation mode, that simply from the observations of thousands of patients in our clinic, this is the proof that simply it's not true, but it really depends on your lifestyle changes afterwards.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And of course, during the time they are fasting, our guests and patients, they can learn a lot of things to change their lifestyle afterwards. And maybe you have a question about lifestyle, so you can really learn to enjoy another type of lifestyle. You can learn that to enjoy the movement if you find the right way to do it for the right time. You can enjoy, especially after fasting, another type of food which is much healthier, much less caloric, much less addictive, which is the plant-based food, prepare at home with good products, with freshly cooked and homemade, good oils, less meat, less everything animals, but more vegetables, legumes, nuts and seeds, good oils, and I think we can really use the time of fasting to prepare the time for after the fasting.
Yeah, what we are doing with our cooking classes as well. And I just had the idea, maybe somebody's interested in our cookbook. I can also link the cookbook in the description of this video. So in case you're interested, just read the description. And as you said, I also have questions about lifestyle change. But before going there, the next questions are about two different types of fasting. The first one is about dry fasting, and the second about water-only fasting. And maybe you could just start talking about the dry fasting, like what is it and what's your opinion about it?
Well, generally speaking, fasting is this switch, this metabolic switch toward using your own body and your own body reserves, especially the fat, as the fuel you need to live and to function, to keep your functions functioning exactly. And in all the natural things, you have a stimulus and the reaction of the body. This is the principle even of natural medicine. You set as a stimulus, and this in this case is stop eating. And the stimulus will bring your body to change totally your genetic programs, stop some genes, deactivate some genes, activate other genes. You change everything in your body, in the secretion of your hormone, in your brain, and you function according to this autopilot. I've nothing coming from it. Of course, if you stop drinking, if you stop eating, this is an extremely strong stimulation. And you have in nature a lot of animals, for instance, the migrating birds, when they go over an ocean or over the Gulf of Mexico or over the Sahara, they cannot drink and they don't eat, they don't drink, and they do a lot of exercise. So you have these extreme cases of organisms which are made to support such a thing. For humans today, it's not so easy to switch from an incredible overstressed life, overfed life with the too less clean water but you drink a lot of cola beverages with a lot of sugar. So going from this incredibly overstimulated, oversatiated situation to a fasting giving you nothing, not even water, which would be the dry fasting, I think very, very few people will stand that. You might need a lot of preparation, to make a decrescendo in etaps. And I ask, what is the purpose? I ask our Russian partners and colleagues, because the Russians are very, well, the ones I know, scientists who prone the fasting, and they are incredibly tough, and then I call them fasting like the Cossacks. They say, oh, because the effects are quicker. Yes, but this is not, in my opinion, especially not in a therapeutic or preventive way. You should have smooth adaptation that the body comes with, that we slowly diminish the oxidative stress you have accumulated. You slowly activate your system that they can cope with the fasting metabolism. And this is why dry fasting, in my opinion, is not a good idea for most of the people. I will never follow someone or guide someone through a dry fasting. There are some indications, but they are not actual anymore. And the people who want to do that today, they do that very often out of a sort of, need to impress or push your limit to the extreme, and that's okay. Some people are very strong, very healthy, very young, and want to do this as a sort of test where how far can the human being go. But it's not for a clinic, it's not for a medical doctor to advise that. I would say even, to want to break a record is not the spiritual dynamics of fasting. The spiritual dynamics of fasting is to slow down your body in a sense that you decelerate, you reset your whole rhythm softly, and then you go back to food and you live much more healthy. So dry fasting has no actual medical indication, and not even for prevention, except breaking records. And this is not my domain. It's not the domain of the clinics. Water only fasting is the next step. You give only water, but at least you give water, because with water you have the possibility to activate extremely your kidney and your urinary system to eliminate a lot of toxins you have accumulated in your body, and the toxins which are released when the autophagy and the apoptosis is starting, like it starts in the fasting. So drinking a lot of water is like if you would at least rinse all the time your blood and from all the substances. You can activate other systems also of elimination during the fasting, like the gut by enemas, or the skin by doing exercise and sauna, the lungs by doing exercise, etc. So this is an aspect. Water fasting, in my opinion, is not for everybody. Certainly not to do in everyday life, except you have experience. And but I wouldn't never guide someone at home with water fasting, except if there was no other possibility, of course. But I think the way we do it in the Boeringa Wilhelmi clinics, we give some juices and a little bit of honey the people are can take when they need, when they have the impression maybe they have a little hypoglycemia. So you see the power of small things. You take a little spoon of honey when you feel really driveless and exhausted, and suddenly, if this was the reason, of course, then you notice the body comes up again. And this is extraordinary to give the people this opportunity. The juices are creating a sort of meal where the whole group of people fasting meet, and they say, okay, we get ready for dinner. Dinner is 250 milliliters of a vegetable or a fruit juice. But this is enough to create an impression of we divide, we not divide, we share a meal together. And this is very important for the social, the community dimension of fasting. So water fasting is possible. There are places who do it. If you do it outside of your home, I'm not recommending it, but if you do it properly, some people do that with good results. We recommend to make a little modification of the fasting. It goes up to 200, 250 calories, so that it smoothens the transitions for modern people. And then when you go back to food, you didn't shake your system the same way. You didn't put this incredible stimulus. And in the case of people who can stand the stimulus and react it properly, then sometimes we also notice in our clinic that some people take only the vegetable broths, so it's almost no calories. So some of them can do the water fasting, but most of the time we give the standards, and many people feel well with that.
But very important, sorry, to mention is because I got that comment, or I saw that comment in below the videos. 200 calories means the body is still in fasting mode, exactly.
Well, at least again, you see this fasting word is a little bit elastic. We provide a little bit of carbohydrates in a natural form, and this is diminishing the extreme acute switch. This is soothing an effect that might have deleterious effect if it's too extreme. Sometimes when you give a too big stimulus, you block the system. And this is why you have to modulate what you give. But with a fruit juice and a little bit of honey and a vegetable broth that has no calories, you have almost no residues. So I suppose the intestinal content is not going, the microbiome is not going to be changed in comparison with water fasting. It changes if you take any diet that have some effects of the like the fasting, like the very low calorie diets or the fasting mimicking diets. They give you substance, so it's not going to change your microbiome the same way, and you don't have this digestive postprandial stuff, and you don't solicitate your body in the same way. So I think the exercise of learning, I can do this switch. The fasting program is in myself, in my genes. It's there. I just have to not to eat and do it properly, with the whole ritual, with the method, with the guidance, and it just comes. It's like if you give birth to a child. You just have to breathe properly and not interfere with the process. And this is just happening in yourself. And this is such a fascination, which of course you don't have with these diets you give, boxes and all these prepared meals, even if they have some of the effects of fasting, the weight loss and others. But the fascination about what the human being is able, like the animals, for me, it's not possible to replace that. So this is why I would say a little supplementation is totally okay, 200, 250 calories, as juices, for instance, where you give no proteins, you give no fats, but essentially natural carbohydrates. For me, I think it's a good, you have a good balance because the between the advantages and maybe a little slowing of the effect of fasting, but so the body can stand it.
Perfect. Thank you very much for answering. I think that was pretty comprehensive already, and I would postpone the question of the lifestyle change to the next episode if that is okay. And yeah, if you're interested in the lifestyle changes, then just stay tuned. We will answer in the next episode. Thank you so much, Françoise, again for taking the time. And thanks everybody for watching, and see you next time.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everybody. Most of it you will find in our review in Annals of Medicine,
which I will link below. Have a great day. Bye bye.